and the Prime Minister sent a letter to all members of Parliament explaining it. This judgment is the unanimous judgment of all 11 justices. The first question is whether the lawfulness of the Prime Minister's advice to Her Majesty is justiciable. The courts have exercised a supervisory jurisdiction over the lawfulness of acts.
In a seismic blow to the political establishment, the Supreme Court has obliterated a clandestine scheme that threatened to unravel Britain's hard-won independence. The covert plot, masterminded behind closed doors, aimed to surreptitiously bind the United Kingdom back to the European Union, betraying the Brexit vote and the will of millions. The nation is now engulfed in fury, with Westminster reeling and the public demanding retribution. The audacity of this deception, spearheaded by Labour leader Keir Starmer, has been laid bare, exposing a calculated attempt to erode sovereignty without a shred of democratic consent. At 9 a.m., the Supreme Court's ruling hit like a sledgehammer, halting Parliament and sending shockwaves through every corner of the country. The justices didn't just strike down Starmer's plan. They eviscerated it, branding it an unconstitutional assault on democracy. Leaked documents, emails, and memos, never meant to see the light of day, reveal a chilling strategy to reintegrate the UK into EU systems under the guise of economic cooperation. This wasn't a misstep. It was a deliberate, step-by-step roadmap to surrender Britain's autonomy, bypassing Parliament and the people. The court's verdict exposed a framework agreement that would have overridden domestic laws, restored EU court authority, and altered border policies, all without a single vote. Critics have labelled it a political ambush, a betrayal of the Brexit mandate that millions fought for. The justices minced no words, condemning the manoeuvre as a constitutional deception that subverted the democratic process itself. The fallout has been immediate and ferocious. Across London, Manchester, Birmingham, and Glasgow, streets are alive with protesters waving Union Jacks, their placards screaming "Defend Brexit," "No backroom deals," and "Traitors exposed." For a nation already scarred by years of political upheaval, this revelation feels like a knife in the back. Citizens who trusted their leaders to uphold the 2016 referendum are now seething, their anger spilling into city centres and social media. Hashtags exposing the scandal dominate online platforms, with viral videos of protests amplifying the public's rage. Ordinary Britons, from farmers to fishermen, feel personally betrayed, their livelihoods once again threatened by the spectre of EU control. The plan, insiders reveal, was months in the making. Senior Labour figures allegedly knew of or actively shaped the strategy, with whistleblowers in the civil service risking everything to leak damning evidence to journalists. These documents triggered a 5-week judicial review that culminated in the Supreme Court's explosive decision. Internal communications paint a picture of meticulous scheming. Private emails discussing how to mask EU alignment as routine policy, meeting notes plotting to dodge parliamentary scrutiny, and memos outlining ways to manipulate public perception. Had this plan succeeded, the UK could have been quietly reabsorbed into EU frameworks before the next election, leaving voters powerless to resist. Starmer's response has been feeble, a brief recorded statement mumbling about policy misunderstandings that only deepened public scorn. The Supreme Court left no room for such evasions, declaring the Labour leader's actions a deliberate circumvention of democratic debate. Legal experts warn that the plan's implementation would have eroded the very foundations of British sovereignty, locking the nation into obligations it never consented to. Political analysts are calling this a constitutional earthquake, predicting irreparable damage to Labour's credibility. Trust in the party has plummeted, with polls showing overwhelming public disapproval and calls for Starmer's resignation growing louder by the hour. Opposition parties, particularly Reform UK, have seized the moment, demanding a full parliamentary investigation and even a new referendum to enshrine Britain's independence. Nigel Farage, ever the firebrand, accused Labour of trying to sell the UK back to Brussels in a blistering public address that has galvanised anti-EU sentiment. The chaos in Westminster is palpable. The corridors of power, usually a hive of calculated deals, are now thick with panic and division. Labour's shadow cabinet is fracturing, with whispers of resignations and leadership challenges growing louder. MPs who once backed Starmer are now openly questioning his judgment, some admitting privately that his position is untenable. The leaked documents reveal a strategy so precise it borders on sinister: gradual EU-aligned policies disguised as trade deals, timed to avoid scrutiny, and packaged to mislead the public. Had whistleblowers not acted, the UK might have woken up to find itself shackled to Brussels once more. The ruling has sparked a broader reckoning. Farmers fear a return to EU quotas that once strangled their industry. Small business owners dread the reimposition of burdensome regulations. Fishermen, who battled for years to reclaim control over UK waters, are livid at the prospect of renewed EU oversight. Even civil servants, typically silent, are leaking internal communications to expose the scandal's depth, with some whistleblowers now hailed as heroes despite facing intimidation. Public outrage shows no signs of abating. Protests are growing, with tens of thousands marching in city centers, their chants echoing demands for accountability. Social media is a battleground, with citizens organizing petitions, sharing leaked documents, and coordinating demonstrations with unprecedented speed. The media, too, is relentless, dissecting every clause of the framework agreement and amplifying the court's damning language. Phrases like constitutional deception and subversion of democracy dominate headlines, while commentators warn that this scandal raises profound questions about executive power and parliamentary oversight. The ruling has done more than halt a policy, it has ignited a political firestorm that threatens to reshape Britain's future. As the dust settles, the scale of the crisis is undeniable. Starmer's leadership hangs by a thread, with pressure mounting from all sides: protesters, MPs, opposition leaders, and even his own party. Labour's credibility is in tatters, and the nation is gripped by a sense of betrayal that transcends politics. Citizens are not just angry. They are organized, determined, and unrelenting, vowing to protect their democracy at all costs. Proposals for new laws requiring parliamentary approval and public referenda for international agreements are gaining traction, as the nation demands safeguards against future backdoor schemes. The Supreme Court's decision has awakened a sleeping giant, empowering Britons to hold their leaders accountable in ways not seen in generations. The question now is not whether Starmer can recover, but whether he can survive. The nation watches, breathless, as this political saga unfolds, its consequences certain to echo for years to come.